Welcome to the Armchair GM podcast. Today, we are excited to welcome Kent Wilson back into the show to chat about the direction of the Calgary Flames. Some comments made by Don Maloney in an interview with Brendan Parks in the intermission of the game the other day. How the team should handle the present and futures of struggling forwards such as Connor Zary and Yegor Sharangovich, and a potential trade target for the Flames that just came up from the Ducks. So let's get into it.
You are watching the Armchair GM podcast. Rudy, Kent, welcome back on the show. It was been a few episodes ago, but really excited to have you back with your insight and your knowledge and your expertise. How are things going
Yeah,
with you, sir?
good. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to see a highlight package like that. Not a lot of them from this season, I imagine, but especially that Connor Zary goal, beauty. But that
Right?
player hasn't manifested this year, unfortunately. So
There's been a whole lot of that, right? There's been a lot of disappointment as far as the core of the team. There's been some bright spots with a couple of the young guys that have come in. Hanzik, I thought is really produced well and has looked really, really good with Backlund and Coleman so far. Pre-injury, unfortunately, but um, wish
yeah,
I could say the same about Perek as of his role before the injury as well. But he's
yeah.
been struggling. He's got to figure out the NHL, and I'm sure he'll get there. I'm sure he'll be a pretty key player moving forward. But it's looking like it's going to take him some time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of overreaction to the player in the organization too. I mean, you had to be prepared to, bring a 19-year-old along, and you saw a lot of panic, a lot of handling with kid gloves. His confidence was obviously just destroyed, but before he had his injury, he does have a lot to learn, obviously, but um, they were very ambivalent about him making the team pretty clearly, like the entire time. And his results, his underlying results, weren't even that bad. In terms of shots and chances, um,
Right.
even though you could see there were some struggles and there was going to happen, but
Mhm.
they didn't seem prepared to live with that really, and they should have been, because um, there was no
Yeah,
other option. So they didn't seem to really commit to developing him at the NHL level this year. So hopefully he comes back healthy, goes to the World Juniors, and we'll see after that, right?
yeah, absolutely. I find it very unfortunate the way his path kind of was drawn up there, right? Can't go to the AHL this year. Couldn't go back, into the league he came from because he definitely didn't belong there any longer. Not quite ready for NHL minutes, but you could kind of push him along and teach him the style, and he can figure it out. But it's been kind of frustrating to watch the organization have such a short leash on the young guys while providing much more leeway for some veterans or mid veterans, as they not necessarily the older.
I think
What
Chris
we're
may have
seeing from Perek.
frozen.
Did I
All
freeze
right.
up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, you're back now. You're back now. But
Yeah.
yeah, to me, the biggest issue there with how Perek was brought into, and this maybe it's not the biggest issue, but it definitely contributed to the problem, is they couldn't figure out who to put him with and how to play him. So you can't, to me, you can't really develop a young player by giving him a different partner every other game, and it's only every other game because he missed every other game because they just scratched him, right? So it's like they'd play him with Bean for a game or two and then it wouldn't be any good, so they'd scratch him and then bring him back, play him with Hanley. Wouldn't be good, scratch, but like they haven't really done it with any of the players up until maybe about 2 weeks ago, where they actually started giving guys defined roles, except for the Hanzek Backlund line. That was a thing, but there no other lines or pairs other than I guess Anderson and Ball have really been steady throughout the entire, even for like more than 2 weeks, really. And I feel like a young guy like Zane Parekh probably needs to be able, especially with the kind of hockey IQ he has, he needs to be able to read off of his partner. And Bean and Pahal and Hanley all play very different games and are different handedness and like all that type of stuff, right? Like it's just hard for a young guy to have any sort of continuity.
Yeah, it was tough given that he wasn't given a clear role, a clear partner. I would have paired him with a better veteran from the start myself. But the other thing to keep in mind is how bad of hockey the Flames played in October, across the board.
Mhm.
Uyghur and Anderson, who um, Anderson's having a better November, obviously, but they were terrible. Like they had hideous games, and Uyghur at this point has 4 assists in 22 games. He's minus 18, which is the worst in the league. Right? They're letting Uyghur play through that because they know this is a very good veteran. But there were plays, and then there was no offense to speak of. So a highly offensive teenager comes into the team, and they're playing a game that goes completely against every strength that he has, and it exposes every weakness that he has in his game. And then he's sad immediately after almost every mistake he makes, even though there's veterans up and down the lineup making just as bad mistakes during the period. So you could tell that player before he got hurt had no idea what he was supposed to do on the ice. Like everything he does well was muted or cut off, and everything he doesn't do very well was exposed
It was,
constantly. So it was a really tough, go for him, obviously.
yeah, he wasn't really given the opportunity to shine, right? Like it took them forever to put him on power play one, and like whether or not he deserved it, you could tell that
There was something there.
his
Yeah.
his offensive flair was being like, it was bringing something new to, especially in October. The power play was so bad. It's gotten a little bit better, but the power play was so bad
It's
in
still pretty
October.
bad.
Just bringing him in, and just that little bit of creativity and the little bit of willingness to filter a puck through to the net and the ability to get it there. Like, did it result in points? No, but it resulted in, at least those of us watching could sit down and be like, well, you can see this guy has talent, and if you let it cook, it'll come out and it'll shine eventually if you just let it come out. They just kind of didn't really want to do that.
Yeah, and I think the way to think of it right now is think of like Matt Coronado in October. He was terrible. Like that was, I think, some of the worst hockey I've seen him play. In short career, but um, didn't look like the player he was last year. And like the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think he's the best forward on the team, right?
Hands down.
And I
Hands down.
think you'd probably get that sort of progression with Parekh if handled properly. One, the team as a whole is obviously playing better in this month, so that helps. But you could see Parekh has the computer, right? He just isn't up to speed quite yet because he played in junior last year. So give him 40 games, right? Correct him when he screws up. Don't bench him for 2 periods after a giveaway that you know you're going to have to live with that as with a 19-year-old on a bottom place team that's not going to win anything this year. Just take him aside and go, here's what went wrong. Do video afterwards. Don't sit him and then sit him 2 games in a row. And it's just like he was, destroyed by the time he got injured. You could see like he was just out there trying not to make mistakes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
those. Go ahead, Chris.
He at the end before he got injured there, he kind of had that same demeanor as a kid that has abusive parents. Afraid to say something, in fear that they're going to get reprimanded for such a minor thing, right?
Mhm.
Like you're right. He had zero confidence there, especially in the last week or two before the injury. Like he wasn't even attempting to be creative in a lot of situations where he was at least attempting to be creative at the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, and
I would,
obviously with developing players, you have to walk a line, right? You can't have, underdeveloped players come on the team, do whatever they want, freelance, develop bad habits. Like, that can happen, but you also can't totally destroy what makes a
yeah,
player unique, right? And I've talked about it with Jack Han, who used to work for the Toronto Maple Leafs, writes a great Substack now, and
Yeah.
he wrote something on it, and he said, "Here's how to destroy a prospect."
Mm.
It was one of the better articles I'd seen, and he noted that like when it goes wrong, when you have a high skilled prospect and you spend all your time developing their weaknesses, like trying to always shore up the ways you think they're a bad hockey player and not leaning into and developing their strengths, that's usually what goes wrong.
yeah,
You got to kind of let, especially players like that. Like it's one thing, like you're not trying to teach Chris Tanev how to score. You're trying to. It's the same thing. It's just the opposite. You know, you're you got to let it. Like to me, yes, you got to coach some better defensive habits into the guy, but you got to let him learn how to use the skill set he has in the NHL a little bit, at least get a little bit of confidence with that you know, before trying to make sure he's the best defensive player he can be, because
mm,
that's a good way to spend a couple years doing that and then make him lose all of, not probably not all of his natural ability, but lose a lot of his um, natural instincts to make those plays quickly, right?
Mhm.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know that from even training my staff, right? You focus on the highlights and you develop the rest, right?
right.
Mhm.
Like you start here, here's what you're really good at. It's awesome. Let's do that. But while we're doing that, let's also focus on, attempting these other things that will that'll make you a complete package, which is
Mhm.
obviously what we're shooting for with any prospect. But I mean, I
Well,
honestly would have thought that Husker would be better at developing these young guys, given his years working with the youth, if you will. But
well,
it
the
just
issue
it really
is,
seems off.
yeah, with a guy like Perek too, it's a different MO altogether, right? Because this is a profoundly special player. Like this is an elite. This is not a cookie cutter development. Like you're not developing middle six winger or a Yan Kuznetsov who might be a top four guy who scores 10 points a year. And he needs to, I mean, those guys you need to figure out how to make them the best middle rotation player you can in the league. And you can coach that, right? With a certain
Mhm.
amount, but you're not coaching Zane Perek on how to be a great offense. Like you have to allow him to be one of the best
Right.
offensive players in the league, and then shore up, just round off some of the rough edges otherwise. Because the only way he's going to be a star is to do things that nobody else can. And so you have to kind of find the sweet spot of letting him do that and then just making
Mhm.
sure he's not absolutely abysmal at everything else because you don't need him to be a Yan Kuznetsov. You don't need him to be really good in the defensive zone because he's going to be profoundly elite in the offensive zone. It's like trying to make
Yeah.
Johnny Gaudreau a really good, two-way checker. It's
Two
like,
eight.
no, just let
Yeah.
Johnny do Johnny, right?
Trying to make Johnny Gaudreau into Tim Jackman ain't gonna happen.
Though, though the year that Johnny spent with Sutter, I think really helped his game a lot. He actually became somebody willing to come back and forecheck and
Mhm.
do some work in the corners. I thought it was interesting at the end of that year. I found the person that really benefited the most from that season with Sutter was Gaudreau. I thought that was kind of interesting to watch. It was cool. I thought it was awesome to watch. Actually, there was many plays where I just went, "Wow, look at him getting back here. This is amazing."
But to Kent's point, that's also a player who was allowed to be the highly offensive guy for a few years. It was probably like 8 years or something like that before that time, and then Sutter coached that into him, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's easy to do with a player who starts scoring immediately. Although Gaudreau's first 10 games in the league weren't great. I think he did 10 games and they got sat and people started talking about sending him to the AHL. And then when he got back in the lineup, he started scoring and never looked back. But of course, he was 21 that year too, right? So he wasn't 19. Like if you think back to say Quinn Hughes when he made the I think he was 19 or 20 as well. He was terrible defensively, probably for a couple of years. Yeah, he played with Tanev, that's right. But he started scoring. He had a very stable. He had a better team too to play with, obviously. But he wasn't the Quinn Hughes we see now, who's probably one of the most dominant players in the league until he was like 22, 23, right? So that you just have to accept that a 19-year-old coming out of juniors not going to be great all-around player.
Growing pains is it's something you have to expect, especially with young players, right? Kind of got off on the tangents about Zane Parekh there, but while we're on the development of players and how players may or may not be handled properly. Now, Connor Zary and Yegor Sharangovich, after Hanzek got hurt, they've both kind of been in the same role for a couple games now for the first time really all year in the top 9, both of them in the top 9 in the same role, and both of them have started to look a little bit better. Yegor Sharangovich got 2 assists last night, but
might be his best game all year, actually.
Probably his best game in a calendar year, but he's got 6 points and is a -11 in 18 games, and Connor Zary has 2 points on the season, -3. We've actually seen some pretty weird advanced stats with him, but he's played 20 games and he only has 2 points, which is really disappointing. And I'm just curious, Kent, how you see this going. Like how would you like to see these two players used, and what's the end goal for them? Like are we talking about guys who are long-term fixtures on the team, or are we talking about guys who were just trying as hard as we can to pump up before we dump them, or what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think Sharangovich just is what he is, right? I wouldn't even put him in sort of the developing player bucket. He's just sort of been this guy pretty much since day one, which is why the New Jersey Devils kind of gave up on him. Obviously has some tools, like he's got speed and he's got a shot when he's shooting, but I think part of his problem is the setup and game plan for this team now just doesn't work for him at all. He's a pretty good rush player. The Flames' rush attack is almost non-existent up until this point in the season.
They dump the puck in there whenever they get the chance.
Yeah, they don't have great transition game. They don't have a great rush game, which is kind of what he lives off of a lot. He's not a great cycle player. He's not a great defensive player. He's not going to rough anybody up for you. He's kind of he's a nice little trigger man weapon that you could put on a good rush attack team and be pretty comfortable with him putting up, 20, 40 points a year, 20 plus goals a year. If he doesn't go into a random funk and disappear for three weeks, which is just what he does as a guy. So for him, I would have traded him after his big season. That obviously didn't happen. They signed him long-term instead. Now they're stuck with could be sort of a boat anchor of a contract. So they might as well keep him, see if you could get him going again at some point. and see if you can trade him. But it's for me, Sharangovich is just he is what he is. Helps him get to the cap floor, and you just got to keep him around, see if you can find chemistry at some point. Zeri, yeah, I don't. It's unfortunate. The team was obviously not too thrilled with the player going into the season. They didn't really know what to make of him, and that still stands. Like they use him like they don't know what to make of him. And now the player doesn't know. He doesn't look anything like the prospect that came up, the guy who scored that goal in your highlight reel. We haven't seen anything like that hit from him all season. His first 2 years, he was a great transition player. He was really good at gaining the zone, making people miss. He was a pretty good puck distributor. And I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or accumulation of leg injuries, but it's just the guy we thought was developing is totally disappeared. And they can't even, I don't think you can even trade Zeri as it is right now. He won't be worth anything. So the other issue for both of these guys is there's a giant logjam in terms of roles and players on this team, right? It's an entire team of third line players, maybe a couple second liners, right? But I mean, imagine if Pospisil was healthy. There's just endless logjam. Now they have Beecher and they've got Lomberg and they've got Farabee and Frost and Zeri and Sharangovich. And I mean, all these guys are
middle six to
middle,
bottom six.
Right, middle six, bottom six guys. And there's only so many minutes and only so many roles to go around. Now you have Honzik in the mix, who's probably going to stick around. So you got Coronado kind of finally poking his head above that group, but he was actually mixed into that logjam for a long time too to start the year. You got Kadri, who's 35 years old, who they still consider their 1C, but he just had his first point in 6 games. So there's no stars to push everyone down to where they should be. And now it's just the team throwing a bunch of guys into the mix going, please, someone emerge. And nobody has.
No, it's a really frustrating place to be when your entire roster doesn't have a single player that would make any other team's top line. Right?
Yeah.
Like in reality. Huberdeau's he's a brilliant second line guy. That's it.
Yeah.
Kadri, same thing at best, second line guy. When it comes to Sharangovich, I find with him, his line mates are very key. He needs somebody that can distribute the puck and get him set up for a shot, right?
Who played with him that year he scored 31?
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I can't
I'd have
remember.
to look it up too.
But he shot 17% or something.
Which is
just
5% more than you'd expect.
Pucks just went in all year for him. So
yeah, exactly. There was a lot of puck luck when it came down to that. That one season where he got all his goals and broke the record for Belarusian and all that fun stuff. It was exciting to watch, and I think even as fans we were excited, and let's sign this kid. Like clearly we have something here. Diamond in the rough. We finally found our shooter, and then holy shit.
And he definitely played better. I'll hand it to him. Like the last I did, was my last. I'm doing a power ranking for the Calgary Herald here, which may have been published today. And there's like the top Flames and the bottom Flames, and he was bottom. And I looked at his numbers, and he'd taken like 6 shots on net in November. And I was like, holy cow! Like he wasn't getting pucks on net. Like at least in his 30 goal season, he's zipping up and down. He's taking shots. Like he was present, right? Not like he. And last game was the closest, I think, version of that we've seen this year.
There was one point last night where it was his first assist. He was on the boards and he had the puck and he was like swiveling around trying to protect the puck. And like as it was happening, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, who is this guy? And like, why
Yeah.
can't we see him more often? And then right after that, we scored because he was working so hard on the board. And it's just, he's not doing that. And this comparison came up. I'm never going to compare him to this guy when it comes to attitude or anything like that, but like the way he's floating is like not James Neal level, but it's fucking approaching there, and not the last two games, but for the most of the season and part of the last season, it was like the floating was James Neal-esque, not right up there, but close. And he's not a position.
No one's ever that bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Just kick him right in the junk. Why don't you? Why would you do that to the poor guy? He's already suffering from confidence.
He's not a toxic person, so that's good.
That's a
Just
fair
stop
point.
floating,
Yeah,
and we'll stop calling you Neil. How about that?
Yeah.
right. It's just simply do that.
Yeah. I guess for Zeri, my biggest, and you mentioned it there, but my biggest worry is that his knees and his legs are toast. Like, I was I was excited that he didn't miss a whole bunch of time. He didn't miss as much time as you'd figure from those two absolutely disgusting injuries he had last year. But like his game, like you said, it requires speed. It requires a lot of speed. It requires going through the neutral zone with the puck. It requires being roughed up a little bit because he's often carrying the puck and trying to protect the puck from other guys. But when he's got no speed, he can't drive the net. He can't drive through the neutral zone very well. One of his big things was driving the net off the boards, bringing the puck up like out of a battle and driving it to the net and scoring. He's got a wicked wrist shot from in close, but you're not seeing it. And the more I watch, the more I'm seeing the lack of speed is kind of affecting the rest of it, right? Which you'd expect, right? It's hard to watch because I've been such a big fan of the player. Like in the past couple years, you could see that skill. You could see the things he brought to the team that other players didn't, like the neutral zone stuff and the driving the net and the puck protection in the zone and the freewheeling in the zone and stuff. But he can't do that because his legs don't seem to want to work as well as they were before, and that is really, really worrisome to me. I don't think that he's like completely worthless on the trade market. I think that you'd have to get another guy who's struggling, who's around the same age. But
I think that's ultimately what's
point
going to
now?
happen to him. Yeah, I think he'll be packaged when and if the Flames ever make a trade. Someone might ask for, if they get good prospects and draft picks, they might ask for a Zeri throw in, and the Flames would probably do that at this point, which is unfortunate because he looked like he was going to be some kind of player, right? Not a superstar or anything, but he did bring that element of creativity and offensive flair that is desperately lacking in the team currently, and it's just gone. Haven't seen it for 20 games, right? And you can see how frustrated the player is every single game, but he doesn't seem to have it anymore.
No, he doesn't.
He's got 2
And
points.
I think it ultimately comes down to strength. I think the injuries he's had on his knees, two of them last year, I don't think his legs are strong enough at the moment. Can they become again? Potentially. Is it going to be a ligament surgery that he's going to need to tighten those up and really work on it and get back to the player? Potentially he can, but yeah, the way it's going this year, it's not looking good. And if he goes the entire season like that, he will be worthless on the trade floor, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%. If he keeps, if you don't, and I used this comp earlier today in the Discord, but like he's given me Valimaki vibes. He's given me like if
Yeah.
like with Valimaki and his knee injury, like if you're not using him to get some sort of asset soon, he's gonna Valimaki it, and we're gonna have to waive him, and somebody's gonna pick him up, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
and
possible.
that's what I'm worried about, especially with a player who's got the talent. Like it bothers me, but
Yeah, I
injuries are
mean, through
first.
20 games, he is easily the worst forward, regular
Right.
skating forward on the team, aside from probably Lomberg, who is a role player, probably
Right.
shouldn't be playing every night anyways, right? But aside from that, it's,
Yeah.
bottom
Yeah.
of the barrel.
Exactly. We knew that was the case with Lomberg before the season started. Lomberg, he would be a
Is what he is.
really good 60 game player in key situations where you're playing Edmonton. You need somebody that can throw down every once in a while and mix things up, I guess. But yeah, he shouldn't be an 82 game guy.
No, he's more of a locker room glue guy than he is an on ice anything, right? Aside from every so often he'll take on
Yeah.
someone much bigger than him and do well, but
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, obviously the skill level isn't there. He's turned what he has into quite the admirable career, and he looks like a great guy. But yeah, he's not an every night NHLer, and he never has been, right?
Right.
No, when he's won the cup there with Florida, he was not an every night guy, even in the playoffs. I
No,
don't think.
no, no.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys saw it, but the Flames are rebuilding or whatever you want to call it. They're trying to get younger at the very least. Um,
Are they?
and this this great young defenseman from Anaheim, Pavel Minchikov, has requested a trade mostly because he's been kind of passed on the depth chart by Jackson Lacombe, which is fair because Jackson Lacombe is a fucking incredible defenseman.
Yeah,
So his, although those minutes he's been playing for Anaheim the past few years have kind of disappeared because of guys like Zellweger and Lacombe. And he's a left-handed defenseman. I think he's 6'1". He's not huge or anything, and he's not a defensive stalwart in any sense of the word. But he manned Anaheim's power play for a couple years. He's only 21 years old, and he's already played, I think, like 135. I had it up earlier. I haven't looked at it, but I'm pretty sure it's 135-ish games at 21 years old as a defenseman in the NHL already, which is pretty decent. Um, I would like. I think the Flames could possibly look at acquiring this guy because he's requested a trade. The Flames have some assets. I don't think it would take a first round pick to get this guy. I think Anaheim's in the um, stage of their contention window where they're just building up towards it, and I don't think they're looking for futures. I think they're looking for nows. And with all those left-handed defensemen they have, I feel like they could probably use a right-handed defenseman, especially with a veteran defenseman such as Anderson, especially with guys like Trouba and Gudis becoming unrestricted free agents at the end of the year.
Hmm.
So I'm curious what you guys think of that.
I'll go. I mean, the Flames should be aware if they're pitching for this player that it is a bit of a scratch and dent bin player. I looked at his numbers the last couple of years, including this year, and they're not very good at even strength. Like, there's a reason the coach isn't playing him this year. He's easily the worst defenseman in terms of shots and chances against. So there's the other question for me, like aside from what would it cost, because I'm sure the Ducks aren't just going to give him away. Maybe it's an Anderson trade around that, but can the Flames leverage an asset like this? Is my question, right? Is Huska going to be a coach that gets the best out of an offensively oriented 21-year-old who was not trusted to play the defensive blue line on the Anaheim Ducks. I'm
Right.
not sure, right? The Flames have a bunch of left-handed defensemen already. They're scratching a new guy every other night. So if you trade Anderson, who is right now the Flames probably their marquee trade asset, for a player like this, and you don't leverage him properly, if he becomes a healthy scratch who plays 40 games this year, that could get real ugly, right? So
Yeah.
if the Flames were a different team with a different coach, and I thought they could take an offensively gifted defenseman, plug him in, and turn him into a 50-point guy, I would be a lot more confident. But I'd rather get like a first round pick for Anderson at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. That's my thing with when it comes to Anderson. As a Flames fan, I've been pretty disappointed in Anderson's game the last year and a half, 2 years. Um, However, I do understand that around the league, he has a lot more attention than what we kind of offer him at the moment, and I think he's worth more than just a one for one in that scenario, especially compared to what Anaheim has been doing to the player and how he's already been leapfrogged over by one or two other guys in the depth chart.
Yeah.
Like that's in Anaheim's defensive system, which is troubling to say the least.
I
Um,
mean,
so that
to be fair, Anaheim's defensive system has some absolute studs in them, and Jacob Trouba is way outperforming anything he's done in the last 5 or 6 years. Um,
mm,
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go out there and shit on Anaheim's defensive system. I think it's been pretty good this year, but
yeah,
I can definitely get on board with, is Minchikov going to be like, if we did acquire him, would he be leveraged properly? I don't
Probably
I
not.
don't know about that, right? Like that's a tough one, just seeing how Huska's already dealt with some of the younger players, and how he seems to love Jake Bean, and just some of these other mad players, right? Like
yeah,
I'm going to
that
hand it to
that I
Jake
never really
Bean.
thought of, but
He's been fine this year. Like his numbers are fine, but all those players, what they in the system, they're playing, simple, low event, get the puck out, you know, only pinch so often. Like it's a very straightforward, play within yourself, don't do too
mhm,
much system, right? And Minchikov, if you want him to be a class A asset or something that turns into something, you're just going to get another Kuznetsov at best, right? And nothing against Kuznetsov, who's come in and look pretty comfortable, but
yeah,
um, he's a defensive defenseman who's looks like he might be a top 4 guy, but yeah, he's not going to score 30 points a year or anything. It'll just be sort of good enough defensive filler for the middle of the rotation.
yeah, I
yeah,
think Minchikov would probably end up being like, if he goes to a team that leverages him properly, I do think he's got like power play one, 45, 50 point type of upside, but he's got to be leveraged properly, because he's got the skill. I've watched him the past few years. Like he's not a bad hockey player at all. He's been
Right.
passed by a couple of really, really, really good young players. But he's got some upside. But
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
it's hard to see anybody really coming in. Like Honzek isn't even getting points, right? Like he's
No.
looking good, but he's not getting points, and he's being used as a third line grinder. And that's just kind of how Huska's gonna bring everybody in. They're all gonna be brought in to be these defensive players that they are or are not.
Yeah.
Well, they
I mean,
they kind of
in
got to
Hon-
do it with the team they have, right? So
Yeah.
it's just,
yeah,
you know,
in Honzag's defense, I mean, his line mates only get points on the penalty kill anyways, right?
Well, Coleman's leading the team in goals, isn't he?
yes.
He's at
him
this year.
and Coronado now, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I also want to push back on Kuznetsov a little bit as an old defender that had zero offensive ability. I
Mhm.
really appreciate what he's doing with the team right now.
He's been
Oh
really
yeah,
good for his role.
Yeah,
He's been
he's
quite
been
good.
solid for his role for sure, 100%. Yeah,
the
but you're
funny
right.
thing is
You're
like
not expecting much from him.
he wouldn't be on the roster if Kevin Ball didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of another quibble I have with this team. Like they've got Pahal and Hanley and Bean
You
on the team.
legitimately are
They lost
describing the
Solovyov.
Coronado Mantha thing from last year.
Yeah, that's right. And like Solovyov, they lost to waivers. Kuznetsov wouldn't be on the team. You wouldn't know that he's probably NHL ready now because again, he didn't make the team out of camp because again, they've got this huge log jam of, two of these guys were waiver claims. And if you
Yeah,
put Jake Bean on waivers tomorrow, he'd probably
he-
pass through. Maybe not, but he's another sort of a guy who's on the fringes of the roster
Do we
at
care
this
if he
point of his
passes through?
career. No, right?
Yeah.
You don't at all. And now the
well,
Flames
that's
have
why I
this
was
sort
so
of
upset about the Hanley signing, right?
yeah, guy's
Like,
34
what are
years
we
old.
doing?
You claimed
Like,
him
I
on
get it. He's a
waivers, and
nice guy and he had a good season last year, but
he had a
it
good
serves
season. Yeah.
no purpose. Like,
No,
no purpose
exactly.
for the moving forward of the Calgary Flames. Like, it made no sense.
Yeah, they should have traded him at the deadline if there was any.
Mhm.
That's what you do. You claim those guys on waivers. You glow them up a little bit, then you trade them. Especially a 33-year-old at the time. Like
Right.
Mhm.
it's
Managing assets.
yeah, and the Flames now have a giant logjam that will be developing in their prospect system, especially at the AHL level in the next year or two. Right, just
Mm.
it's already
Yeah.
kind of there. It's already starting to gather, but you've got a whole bunch of guys who are going to graduate. And now we don't know. We don't know if Poirier's an NHLer, probably not.
Right.
Well, he's
Rustevich,
getting scratched in the A.
yeah, Rustevich though should probably be getting NHL games this year. You've got Stromgren, Cairns, and now Gridden, who's come in and like hopped the queue, but now he's going to need some time. One of the biggest
Mhm.
issues for rebuilding teams that do get a lot of futures assets is how do you stagger
Right.
these kids into the lineup and like waiting for Kuznetsov to be 5 or 6 years into his development to finally get some real NHL games is stupid. It like
Yeah.
what are you waiting for? He's got to outplay Joel Hanley in. Why is Joel Hanley
Right.
here? I
Yeah.
don't.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make. Why did you sign Jake Bean for 2 years? And I know that they have this philosophy of like the kids have got to outplay the veterans to get the spot, but that's just stupid. I mean, like you say, if Mantha didn't get injured last year, is Coronado on the team right now?
He's probably
Yeah,
on the
probably.
team now, but he certainly wouldn't have
Now
been on the team for
doesn't get
for
24 goals
you
last
know
year.
10, 15, 20 more games last season, right? He would have
No,
been in the AHL for a lot longer, in my opinion. And he came back. Chris likes to talk about this all the time. He got sent down, played a couple games, was so good, and came up and like
killed.
earned his keep, right?
Yep.
And like I don't know, I've had no problems with the games Karen's played at
Yeah,
all.
he was
Like
fine
his
the last
pace
few
is
appearances.
his people say his pace isn't
Yeah.
that great, but like, have you seen the rest of this fucking team?
Yeah.
Oh,
If Mantha doesn't get hurt, Coronado currently is not making 6.5 times 6, right?
That's for sure.
Or
right.
like it's simple as that.
So a lot of
There's a
this stuff kind of ties into the Don Maloney stuff. So let's get into that a little bit. I'm not gonna like quote him word for word, but what I will do is give you some bullet points kind of what Don Maloney said on the in the intermission. He had a interview with Brendan Parks. Parks did a really good job of asking questions, and Maloney did a really good job of kind of, in my eyes, making it seem like he had no idea what he was supposed to say or how he was supposed to say it, or he is legitimately the most embarrassing man I've ever seen on a microphone. And I've watched Donald Trump do media, like he's just an embarrassment. Um, but anyways, so Don Maloney kind of started off. He said that it's a terribly disappointing season. The team's former reputation was being a hard out. They haven't really been this year, and they definitely haven't won enough. Thanks, buddy. Really needed you to tell us that. Uh, they're
Yeah.
not throwing in the towel. The bad start hasn't altered the direction, and the playoffs are still the goal. Having youth on the team is not going to work. Gradine is exactly in where he should be in the AHL, which is something he said completely, really unprovoked, um, for some reason. Um, and he said everyone wants the rebuild to be done quickly. And then he backtracked because he's not allowed to say the word rebuild and actually just said
Rebiggle.
rebiggle.
Rebiggle. Yeah.
So like
This,
again, the most embarrassingly, like, this is the guy who, and I'm like not here just trying to throw shade at him. It's definitely seems like that, but this is a guy who was openly weeping when Brad Treliving, who legitimately ruined a very, very good team, and then left.
Yeah.
He was openly weeping on the microphone, and then every time ever since, every time he's been on the microphone ever since, has been increasingly more and more embarrassing to the fan base. And this, to me, this whole thing that he said yesterday on the broadcast, it's insulting to us. It's insulting to the people who watch. It's like he doesn't think that we can see what's going on. It's like he doesn't think that we can see the standings. It's like he doesn't think that the other people um in the business, the other GMs and other owners can pull up NHL.com and look at the standings, or have watched any of the games, or you know I don't I just I don't it, is he
Well,
being
when
serious about it? Probably not. A lot of it, he's just trying to do, limit the panic or whatever, and posture trades and stuff like that. But like, everybody
doesn't
knows
make
what you're
sense.
trying to do. Like, you don't have
I
to fucking boldface lie about it.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
even buy that posture stuff, to tell you the truth, because as you say, it's nonsensical, right? Like them coming out and saying, "Oh, we're not trading Kadri," um,
Mm.
but so if you want him, you got to pay it. Like, who's falling
Yeah.
for that as an NHL GM? That's very silly. What
Yeah.
I got the sense watching that stuff is like, is he lying to us, or are they lying to themselves? Because it's
Right.
just that silly, right? Like, you you had a nice little run last year based on a goalie getting very hot. But a couple of years when I started talking about tanking and rebuilding, it wasn't because I thought a season like this was inevitable, like being terrible out of the gate and just being terrible. It was because it was inevitable that there was no path to become a contender. And that is still true. Like,
Right.
the ceiling for this team was what we got last year, which is a wild card hopeful. If everything goes right, if they play the game right, if they're not, if they're healthy, if the goalie stands on his head, they might sneak in as eighth and get their asses kicked in the first round. That's not what's the point of building and trying to continually build that team? You win nothing. We've been decades of this as Flames fans, watching the team try not to be bad all the time,
Yeah.
trying to lift the floor while not pursuing a high ceiling. I don't care about a high floor anymore. I've seen high floors. It's
Yeah.
boring. Being eighth, ninth, 10th in the West, being respectable by not losing too much, gets you nowhere. The game on the ice is one thing. The game in the front office is totally different. And the Flames keep trying to play, we're never going to be bad game. It's like the league is organized around the principle of rewarding bad teams eventually. And if you look at the top 10 scorers right now, what are they all first overall picks currently? It's first, second year.
McKinnon, McDavid, Celebrini, Bedard, like, yeah.
Leo Carlson, who
Leo Carlson is
wasn't
second
first,
overall.
but second overall pick. And this
Jack
team keeps,
Eichel, second overall
Jack,
pick, right? Like,
and you know, I will admit that in theory, there is a way to build a contender without having to do that. But you have to be the best front office in the league. You have to be absolutely ruthless and efficient in terms of your cap and your player evaluations. You have to be ahead of the market when it comes to all of that stuff. And the Flames have never been. You're not the smartest people in the room, and that's fine, right? If you could figure out a way to be to pick 16th overall all the time and become the Colorado Avalanche, you would have done that already.
Right.
But
yeah,
the
but
most
the Colorado
mid-level team
Avalanche
for
have
ever.
McKinnon and Makar and Landeskog and Rantanen, not anymore, but Natchez, who I believe was also like a third or fourth overall pick, right? Like, they've got all these players who were picked in the top 5. Like,
yeah, but they needed Kadri to get to that next level, right?
yes.
Well, and
That
that's when
was a
you add a
joke.
Kadri, right? It's the
That's it.
perfect time for
Yeah,
a Kadri.
when you're at that spot, then you add that player. Yeah, those key pieces, the Colemans, the Kadris, the guys that'll help you in the playoffs to get to that, that little step. You need that push.
Adding
As a
that's-
Flames fan for many years, I watched the interview and I go,
what are you talking about?
you're right.
Like,
Yeah, like I've been watching this fucking franchise for so long that when he comes out and has that interview and I listen to it and I watch it and I play it in my head and I just go, yeah, that's Flames. That's Flames hockey right there. Right?
I think it's
we lucked out in '04 and made the playoffs in a year that we had no business making the playoffs. And then because the work ethic and the drive of the team and obviously really hot goaltending, we got to the show, right? Which is
You had
great.
a
But
superstar
then
too.
also had a
right.
superstar.
And that's right. And then we proceeded to do 2 decades worth of make playoffs, miss playoffs, make playoffs, miss playoffs. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing? We've been doing it for such a long time that even when I hear management say that this is great, it doesn't even phase me anymore. Like it doesn't make me angry. I'm just so indifferent whenever management talks. Here's the direction. Is it though? Is it actually the direction? Because
What
your
direction?
actions speak
What's he talking
way.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
What direction? He
last year
didn't
we're hard out.
name anything.
Yeah. Like last
It's
year we're hard out. We need to get back to last year. Yeah, you didn't make the playoffs last year.
That's
who
the
Like
cares
thing.
about being a hard
kills me.
out? It's
Like
at this
that's the goal.
point in the build,
Just
right?
to miss making the playoffs in the last week of the season. Like that's our new standard for
The
It's
greatness.
also
Like
ceiling
that's
on this
Flames.
team is missing the fucking playoff.
it's also the
It's like,
worst thing that could have happened
fuck's
to the
sake.
organization long term, right? Like,
100%.
give the players their due, give Wolf his due. It was quite the effort they put in. But from a management perspective and from a long term perspective, that's a terrible, terrible thing. When the season started, I said the thing in the GM office should be don't finish ninth.
Right.
Finish first or finish last. Don't finish ninth. And they
That's
did.
right.
It's like, stop doing this and stop making it the goal of doing this. The relentless pursuit of
Yeah.
status quo is a terrible way to do business when you're a mediocre
Right.
product.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And so then we roll into this season and Wolf hasn't been quite the goaltender he was last year.
No.
So we're struggling there. Our backup has been, unbelievable, but finally picks up his first win because we can't score a fucking goal. Like,
Yeah, everything
it
that went
just
right last year hasn't gone right this year. And honestly, they are a better team than they've shown on the scoreboard so far. And I
surely.
think
Yeah.
if they keep the band together, they're going to have, December or January, they'll go 7-3 or something. And, they could play their way out of the basement at some point if they just
which would be the worst thing.
If they status quo it, and again, yes, that would be the worst long-term thing because it won't. There's no reason to do it. It doesn't get you anywhere. Finishing 10th in the West instead of last in the league. Maybe you take some pride in that for some reason, but you need.
Yeah.
Are we building a contender here or not? Like that's what I'd be trying to do as a GM, as a franchise, as an organization. Why are you trying to build a hard out?
Well, that's right. And
that's not a
from
goal.
The players' side, obviously, you don't want them wanting to lose. I get it. They're going to try their damnedest to win every game, and that's what you want. You don't want people.
That's fine.
You don't want losers in your organization. That's fine. Play your heart out, whatever. But in the meantime, you're going to just notice that this guy's going to be gone accidentally, and we're going to fill it in with somebody young, developing. We want to see what we have in the organization. What do we need to draft? Come this summer.
Well, I think it's
the business.
Question I
the
ask
business
myself
right?
right now when I watch the team, look at where they are in the standings, look at where they are in their build. Why is Nazem Kadri still on this team? What possible reason do you have to keep Kadri right now? Why is Rasmus Andersson still here?
Yeah.
Like the guy, was a big fan when he's a prospect.
Yeah.
Seems funny, and you're not going to keep that guy. He's going to want a retirement contract. You are not there in your build. Why is Coleman still here? Great guy. And part of the reason I'm saying that is because all these guys will command a return. You're extremely lucky that Nazem Kadri at 35 with $7 million on a contract. People want that because when he signed that deal and things went like this, I thought, poof, that guy's here for the duration, right?
The second he signed that deal, we did a show. Chris and I did a show, and we both said that's going to be fucking horrible for the duration of it.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple pretty freaking good years of it, and it's made him an asset.
Yeah,
a trade asset that people, if you listen to the insiders, many teams are after, and could give us a big deal. Like, if we were a contender, like, I'm not a fan of Nazem Kadri's game at all, but if we were a contender, I could see being okay with keeping Kadri. I could see. I'm a huge fan of Blake Coleman since before we got him. I've been a huge fan of this guy for a long time.
He's been very good this year. Yeah.
He's been very good this year. He is an asset. He is a cost-controlled asset that's got term that other teams look at, like, hey, how much contenders love the Stanley Cup ring? Well, he's got 2 of them, and he's on a $5 million, 4.9, I think, for another year and a half. Teams love that shit. Rasmus Andersson, he's only got the rest of this year, but he's playing better in the last 3 weeks than he's played in the last 2.5 years. And
$4 million and change, so super cheap.
Ask Chris. He'll tell you. I've been talking up, like, I have an Anderson jersey right fucking here, right? I've been talking up Anderson for years. I've been talking up Coleman for years. I'm a huge fan of these guys. If we were a contender, keep them. Fuck yeah, keep them. But we're not. These guys are 33 and 29 or 28 and 33 or something like that. Like, it's fucking
29 and 34.
yeah. It's time, right? It's time to move on from these guys who. And the thing is you got to keep, 2, 3, 4 pretty good vets, in my opinion. You should, right? Like, you're not tearing it down to the studs. You're tearing it down, but you're still giving the kids some.
You have to ice a hockey team, right? Like,
and you have to ice a hockey,
everyone,
right?
Yeah.
We have Jonathan Huber, though. He ain't going anywhere. We have Mackenzie Weegar. Even if he requests a trade, we've got a couple years to do that, right? We've got a couple other guys, even Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost are borderline veterans at this point. Like, we've got a few of these guys. Kevin Ball is bordering on veteran territory. And here's the thing I was talking to Chris about on our show a couple weeks ago, but the thing that is not infinitely available in free agency and via trade is Gavin McKenna, Tynan Lawrence, those young superstars, or even Leo Carlson. Like, what's the chance that Leo Carlson,
Stenberg,
who's already
yeah.
drafted, gets straight? It's very, very, very slim. You can
Slim to none.
a Jack Eichel can fall on your lap if there's some sort of freak thing where they don't his team doesn't want to let him get the proper surgery, right? Like, sure, that happens once every 10 years to one team.
To one
But
team. Like, if you think of the Flames' history, has that ever happened to them? Have they ever traded for a superstar in their prime?
in their
No,
prime?
Never.
not in their
No.
not in their
It's
prime.
literally never happened. No, not in their
Yeah, we
prime.
trade. The only two players that we traded for that became superstars is Iginla and Kiprusoff,
Right.
but
You
they
know
were
what
not in
is
their prime.
available though in free agency and via trade all year, every year? Blake Coleman,
Veterans. Yeah.
Nazem Kadri, random 29-year-old defenseman who's a good leader, random 30-year-old forward who's a leader, random backup goalie who's a leader. Like, these things are so easy to find every single year. You don't need to keep them. Once the Ducks had this system of nice players, nice young players they decided, oh, you know what? We're going to trade for one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? They're going to get Radko Gudas. They're going to get Jacob Trouba and use those guys as leaders. They're going to sign Alex Killorn, who's a Stanley Cup winning guy, right? Like, there's ways to build that part of your team after you've built the young, exciting part of your team.
It's also a lot easier to attract players once you have a McKenna, a McDavid, a McKinnon, right? It's much tougher now. I've heard in some sort of fan corners how the Flames have not gone out and made big signings over the last 2 summers. Do you
Right.
think who's signing with which whale was going to sign with the Flames in the summer?
Yeah,
I'm
with
sure
the direction that we're headed right now,
Marner's
like,
not signing here. What are you talking about?
yeah, no, they
Like,
want to win.
yeah,
I was really excited when Conroy, his first year as GM, and and he was able to pull the trigger on Lindholm and Hannafin, and like he was making some really good decisions and utilizing that asset management, and then it just all stopped.
you have to keep in mind though that he had to make those trades. All of those
Sure.
players they tried to sign. They
Right.
they asked Tanev, Hannafin, Lindholm. They all tried to sign those guys, and Zadorov said, "Get me out of here." Like, he
Yeah.
requested a trade out.
He requested.
So
Yeah.
they weren't going to allow any of those guys to walk, especially after Goudreau did. So those were that had to be done. There was no way that was
Yeah.
so. Ever since then, like, aside from they did trade Markstrom with a year left, and they did trade Mangiapane with some time left, but
Can I stop you
both
there
of
for a
those
second?
guys are like, "Get me out of here," too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, like you said, they're only making trades when they're forced to. But the other thing
That's
about the
right.
Markstrom thing is, like, they waited until they were like as close to positive that Wolf was ready as they could
Right.
possibly be, right? So that's what they're doing now too. Like, they're not sure that Gradine or Stromgren or whoever the fuck it
Right.
might be is ready to take Coleman's spot. So they're not trading Coleman. They're
Right.
not sure that Parak and Brustevich are ready. In my opinion, Brustevich is freaking ready, but to take Anderson's spot, so they're like dragging it on, right?
Right.
That it's just like they're waiting until they absolutely have to, or in Markstrom's case, somebody's already ready to take the spot.
Right. And that's
Right.
with Wolf being named the MVP of the league and the best goalie in the league for 2 years in a row.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And then, yeah, so
It's a stretch.
it's the other issue with keeping these veterans, like I said, the ceiling and floor stuff is they raise your floor, but not your ceiling, right?
Yeah.
You're going to keep hitting. There's that glass ceiling above this team, and you only raise the ceiling with elite talent, and just
Right.
keep. The other issue is the longer you keep these guys, the more risk there is of them falling off a cliff, getting
Right.
hurt, not playing well anymore. Like if Kadri finishes the season with 50 points this year and 17 goals or something, guess what? His value's just been, I don't know, cut in half.
Right.
Um, Coleman,
Exactly.
same. Coleman gets a knee injury, in March. Can't skate anymore. He's done as an asset. Like you're playing Russian roulette with 30-plus-year-old players, waiting for them to have an obvious heir apparent come up through. No one's going to displace Kadri right now in the Flames organization. Period. That's not going to happen,
Right.
and you don't need them to because you're not winning anything. So
That's right.
what are we doing here? It's just silly.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing too when we didn't trade anybody this offseason is like we're just really taking everything for chance right now.
Yeah,
What if Kadri falls off a cliff? What if Anderson gets hit by another car in Detroit?
right.
And like there's so many what ifs. Like you can't wait for that shit. You have to pull the trigger. You have to utilize the assets and build the team and move it forward.
And the other
It has
thing
to be done.
about Anderson too is like we're lucky he's playing well because he
Yeah, he's
hasn't
playing well.
like I said for 2.5 years ever since he got hit by that car. Just before that he kind of started falling off a cliff, and we were already playing with fire because the rest of the league didn't seem like they had figured out that he's been terrible for 2.5 years. We have all seen it, right? Like again, one of my favorite players on the team for quite a while, but like he's been pretty bad the last couple years, and
Mm.
we're lucky that he still had any value coming into the season, and it seems like it might be going up a little bit because he's been playing well and scoring and not absolutely horrid defensively, but it's still like you're playing with fire because you've seen what he has been. Is it going to go back down? Probably. Are they going to wait until his value that he's earned recently is tanked? Probably, because that's their MO, waiting until the last second. So, I don't know.
I'll,
No, I don't,
I'll defend him a little bit. I'll just say that, last year he's played with Ball, who was still a fairly green player at the time, and they played him in the toughest circumstances, some of the
Mhm.
toughest circumstances in the league. And I have a lot of time for Anderson, but he is not the definitive first pairing guy who can take on the hardest minutes in the league and flourish, especially behind the roster that the Flames have now, right? So if
Yeah.
you put him on a good team with great forwards and a partner who's as good or better than him, I'm pretty sure he'll still flourish for the next few years. But I just think he was put in circumstances. And you're right, he didn't play well either, even by his standards, but he was put into a situation which was pretty tough given the player he is.
He should be a 20
Yeah.
minute a night guy, not a 25-minute a night guy.
Yeah, that's probably
I
much
thought
more comfortable.
the pairing between Anderson and Ball looked really good for the first half of the season. I was really excited about watching
Yeah.
Ball and thinking that he could develop into something, pretty substantial. Not necessarily, the number one, defender on the team, but I was really excited with what I saw. I didn't know much about him at all before he came here. And so I was pleasantly surprised with how those two paired up. Obviously it didn't end as well as it started, but I was pretty excited, and I still am. I think Ball's a really good defender. Like I said, like I'm definitely more on the defensive defender type mantra. Always have been. So I do like guys like Ball and even Bahal and Kuznetsov. I'm a fan of that style. But I do understand the reasoning and the need for offensive style defenders. I do get it. But I think you need a good healthy mix of both, and I think each line should have somebody that can score and somebody that can truly defend. And I think having guys like Ball, just his size and his presence out there, and his ability to use his stick and take pucks away from people and move them into the corner and and just get them out of the play. I think he's going to be a good guy. That being said, I don't think there's a single Calgary Flame that should not be available for trade. Right?
Yeah,
A single one,
if
not
the
a single
offer's
one.
right.
If
Yeah,
the offer,
unfortunately,
100%.
Unfortunately, though, it still sounds like Conroy would really like to build out that middle age cohort. The 23 to 28.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the hollow piece of the team, aside from Wolf, right? If Wolf wasn't there, it would be even more.
Yeah.
You've got Coronado coming up, who looks like a player, but probably never going to be a superstar, right? He'd probably play
Yeah.
really well next to one, but he's not a superstar. And they keep adding the Sharangoviches and the Farabys and the Frosts to that middle cohort. And you keep hearing Conroy talk about age-appropriate trade targets, and that's usually what he's talking about. But
Mhm.
unless you
I mean,
get an age-appropriate Jack Eichel, it's probably not going to
right.
matter too much, right?
I mean, like, I do agree with the mindset if you're releasing anybody above it, or at least reasonably above it. Like I last year that was my thing, and even the year before is 25 or less, right? At most, if you're doing a signing. Like we don't need more veterans on the team. Let's start drafting properly. We can ice a team of 25-year-olds that kind of know what they're doing, but not quite. So we can finish, in the bottom three for back-to-back seasons, draft appropriately, and really make a push at becoming a contender after that, right? I was on board with it, but now I'm just like, okay, you're not doing
It's
anything with these players, right? Like they're not
it's not
moving
a
forward with it.
terrible plan per se, but whenever you're getting those players for trade, there's a reason, right? Because
Yeah.
most NHL teams want prime age players, and if they're giving them up to you,
Yeah.
they're flawed in
But they
some
just needed
key
a
way.
change of scenery. They just need a change of scenery.
And the other
I mean,
issue
some do.
is
Some
if
do. But
some do, and Sharon Govich worked out almost, but they should have flipped them, right?
yeah.
Because they should have done the analysis of a 17% shooting percentage here. They should have seen who he was before and after that.
Mhm.
At least they
Yeah.
shouldn't have rushed to re-sign him because he wasn't his contract wasn't
Right.
up right away, right? So they had another year to assess that player and maybe flip him, right? So they're so desperate to enact that plan. Whereas I'm like, we still need to keep trading, paper clips up to airplanes. We need more future assets that are high value, blue chip, going to be foundational or cornerstone pieces. The
Yeah.
Frosts of the world, the Farabys of the world aren't really going to do that. You'd love to make those trades in like 3 or 4 years when, let's say, you have a Perec and 2 or 3 new superstars coming up.
Mm.
Then you start plugging gaps on the third line with a guy could be a 40-point player and move up the rotation every so often, but you can't build a team out of those guys. You can't, like, it's funny to hear them talk about a core. The Flames don't have a core.
No, there's no
Like,
core.
a core isn't just the best players on a team. A core is a nucleus of
Things
cornerstone
that
or
work
pillar
together.
players around you, which you build a contender, a real team. It's not, Kadri and Huberdeau and Uyghur are the best players on the team. They're veterans. There's no core on this team. It's just
Right.
you're not
Making
building
fun of
around
the
those
Leafs
guys.
core
Doesn't make
four
sense.
for all those
Yeah.
years, but like
Yeah.
like a young Matthews and Marner and a young Morgan Riley and a mid-aged, prime-aged John Tavares. Yeah, sure.
That's a
Right?
core.
Yeah.
Build
Yeah.
around that.
Any player that's interchangeable is not core.
Yeah.
Anyone
Right.
who's not a superstar or star,
Yeah.
or at least
Hmm.
part of a
Yeah.
foundational contending
It,
or will be a contending team is in
it,
the core. Because
that's right.
what's the point
If
of
you can
that?
pull them out of the lineup and fill them with anybody, or half of the people in that position from your affiliate team, they're not a core.
or free
Right there,
agency,
or
like
free agent. Yeah,
the middle of
like,
free agency.
And maybe Wolf, you can consider core because he probably will be a superstar. Maybe Coronado will
Yeah.
become a core player.
become not there yet, but potentially can be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but your
I was
core
about to
has
ask.
not been drafted yet, or if they are, they have not emerged yet.
Yeah, I was about to say, to wrap it up, we should talk about who, like, if you fast forward 4 or 5 years, who are the core players of this team.
Yeah,
And like you said,
There,
Wolf probably, Coronado, yeah, maybe a second liner to me in the future, like on a good
could
team.
be. Yeah,
To me, Perek absolutely should be.
hopefully, yeah.
The only
if
other
he's
guy
developed
who's
right.
like anywhere close to it, and it's still so far away from even being able to say that it is, but maybe, just maybe, Gradine. Nobody else. And that's like,
Yeah.
Gradine's more than likely going to be yet another second line, right?
You're hoping for Reshny to be something, I think. You're probably going to have one or two guys
Yeah.
emerge out of the last couple drafts that
Yeah.
could be quality support players. But yeah, there's no, as far as we know, there's no
Yeah.
Gaudreau even or a Kachuk in the mix yet.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
drafted,
The core players of this team are undetermined because they haven't been drafted yet.
Yeah, like until you find the era-defining talent who becomes the nucleus of that core, you're just kind of biding your time. You're in a holding pattern as an organization because
Yeah.
you're not going to win anything.
we don't have a
right.
single, like, franchise, like, even possibility of a franchise level forward yet. We
No.
Yeah, and remember how dissatisfied the organization was with Gaudreau as that guy for a long time. And
Right.
you know how
Yeah.
badly we would beg for a Gaudreau level talent right now. And the truth is,
Yeah.
you probably need someone better than that. Because even
Now,
with Gaudreau, now, because you've got Celebrini and Bedard and Carlson, and you still got McDavid and Draisaitl. Like there's guys who gonna start scoring 120 points a year here.
and they're all in our fucking
They're all
division
in the West.
or in the West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
what could go wrong? Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Got a
I
draft to
think that
keep up.
probably about does it for the show today. Really appreciate you coming on and joining us, Kent. It's always great to chat. Really been enjoying chatting with you in the Discord and with all the great people in there who mostly seem to know what they're talking about. Shut up, Graham. But other than that, um,
What's a
um,
far cry from talking to people in the Flames Hub, right?
yeah, it kind of
Ooh.
is. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe to us. And Kent, you should definitely plug your Calgary Herald stuff.
Yeah, so I have a recurring column with the Herald. They let me just spew my opinions onto the page, and people seem to read it, which is good. They've recently launched a newsletter that I contribute to once a week. So go find it, sign up. That'd be great.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. Buckle in, everybody. It's going to be a bumpy ride for this season, at least.
Yeah.
But we're here for it, and it's going to be fun. Thanks for
Cheers.
watching. Go
See you
Flames.
guys.